Politicians are dumb, 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 dumb.
All right, let's get into it. A train carrying more than 30,000 gallons of propane fuel derails in Florida. Breaking, again, this was just a few hours ago. Train carrying more than 30,000 gallons of propane fuel derails in Florida. Hazmat crews have rushed to the scene after 6 cars overturned. One thing that a lot of people are pointing out right now, that there has always been a lot of derailments, but of course now people are paying a very, very close detail to these derailments. These are very, very dangerous events anytime they happen. We're going to talk about this one and some other very strange events that are going on right now, including many things just went down on the Russian side of the border. We'll talk about that and much, much more when we come back. Thank you guys. We are live here on Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Politicians are dumb, 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 dumb. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam McKay, Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you're new here, remember, go over to marfooglenews.com for a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to show you here today. When you go over there, you'll see it is very easy to navigate. Just look for today's thumbnail, and then once you see that, go to All According to Plan. Once you click on it, you'll find a full bibliography for every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. That way you have a source for it all, and you can go back retrospectively and check our work. Also, make sure to check out marfooglenews.com/friends. If there are any mods that help you out in the chat tonight and you just feel they are awesome people, make sure to go pay them back by subscribing. Go over to their channels. They are all artists. They are all authors. They all have something going in one or another case. So please go support them. They are very awesome, and they do a great deal for the Foogle fam. All right, and then let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So we have another derailment. Of course, people are pointing out, people are very skeptical about why a lot of these are happening all at once. Some say that they're just happening because we're paying attention to it. Just like, people paid attention to low-flying planes after 2001. People are paying attention to more derailments. There are a certain number that happen every year, but now there's a lot of events. Some believe that these are some sort of purposeful thing to harm our country in a way. I would love to hear your opinions on it. Please let me know in the comments down below. Again, do you think that they are all accidents, or do you think this is normal? Again, let me know. But Dex, do you want to comment about this? This was breaking right before the show, but we also had several this week. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've had a bunch of these.
Well, I think you and I talked specifically about the numbers of these that were happening each year, and then of course Pete comes out and tells everybody it's 1,000 a year. I think we had said somewhere like 600 to 900 a year. But at that pace, you have a derailment, once a day at least, or twice a day. So on one hand, this is actually normal. I think the problem everybody gets concerned about is if it's a hazardous situation like we had in Ohio. So now everybody's going to report on every single derailment, and everybody's going to, share every single one and question, is something bad happening there, or is there, something more nefarious going on now? If I think it's worth at least looking at, given the situation we're in globally. We're in the middle of a conflict, and or at least we're backing one, and we've got a lot of adversaries that are out to harm us. And something like infrastructure would be one of those areas that would be targeted. So I think it's not unwarranted to look at these and start asking some questions, or at least paying attention to it. Don't keep your head in the sand. But at the same time, don't think that just because you see one of these every day that it's abnormal. It's actually fairly normal. It does happen quite often. That's just the nature of the rail business. It's just scary when it happens with hazardous material on it, and it's obviously very dangerous when that happens to the communities that it would involve. And this one, 30,000 gallons of propane is not something you don't necessarily want, blowing through your neighborhood. Of course, it would, aside from the flammability, it would probably dissipate and everything would be fine. It's just the flammability that's pretty scary.
Well, and I guess a question that I think we should ask is, if this is permanently affecting the railways, which ones are actually affecting routes that would affect our infrastructure? All of them are probably important, but which ones actually affect things getting around the country, our supply chain? Those are questions we should ask too. On top of the environmental effect that some of these are having, Ohio obviously being the most obvious, that one has been an absolute disaster. And no one truly knows how, horrible or what catastrophic effects it will have yet, because we won't find out until people start, passing away, or people start getting cancers and things like this. But we do know that it was a mess, and there were things in the water supplies, in the wind. People are very, very afraid of the possible side effects of what's going on there. If you lived in East Palestine, or if you live there, it's like, this is something, it's like, what are you supposed to do? If you've worked your whole life, you bought a house somewhere, if something like this happens, and unless the company is going to go, oh, well, you know what, we're going to pay you for your house and help you move somewhere else in a comparable house and, set you up. Unless that happens, it's like you're kind of stuck there. And if your house is now devalued, or if now your house is covered in toxic soot and you have to clean it up, or if you get cancer and die early, like, these are things that they're not going to pay you back for. Or maybe there will be a lawsuit and a half, for almost every resident there. We don't know. But there's a lot that they're already saying that is not going to be fixed. So we'll pay attention to all of the derailments, and I would love if somebody could find out how can we figure out which ones are important to the infrastructure as far as long term, and are these fixed right away? Of course, there's a ton of older railways. We'll see if they end up if this affects anything else. All right, and then ex-Marine arrested trying to board flight. And they forgot the T there, with AR-15, handguns, a taser, and a fake U.S. Marshals badge. What? So this guy was supposedly basically armed and had a fake Marshals badge. What do you think he was trying to do there? This doesn't sound like the typical, that one dude on YouTube that pretended to be a cop but was like a escort service or whatever. Funeral escort person. I forget that guy's name, but this doesn't sound like a typical, cop impersonator. This sounds like it was, trying to do something. It says ex-Marine is arrested trying to board flight from Newark to Fort Lauderdale with AR-15, guns, a taser, and fake U.S. Marshals badge before posting photo of his bag arriving a month later. It says the ex-Marine was arrested for trying to board a flight from Newark to Fort Lauderdale armed with an AR-15, handguns, a taser, and bogus U.S. Marshals badge. So I wonder if this, and by the way, does this guy have a history? Is this going to be used? Are we going to hear about this story on the Congress floor and say, what we really need to be worried about is U.S. U.S. veterans and blah, blah, and people with weapons and the First Amendment, and this is why we need to take stuff away, and the domestic threat inside of our country, right? This is painting a picture that looks a whole lot like somebody who was trying to be a terrorist to a plane, and they're, of course, an ex-Marine, which doesn't exactly paint, somebody from Al-Qaeda or something. It says they included a .308 caliber DPMS Panther arms rifle, a .556 caliber AR-15, and a .40 caliber Glock 22. It says a further search of his luggage revealed a ballistic vest, carrier with the words Deputy Marshal, 2 magazines, an expendable baton, and massive amounts of ammunition. It comes after gun seizures at airports across the U.S. hit an all-time high last year with 6,542 in the 12 months, averaging 18 a day. Here's one thought. I guess can an air marshal or can a whatever the marshals are that are up on the planes, can they go right through TSA? Is it normal? Like, can they? Do they have to check their badge and not only do that, but then check their system and then let them through? Or can somebody actually fool the system with a really, really good badge and get through with stuff and even, pass by with weapons? Dex, this is pretty nuts, but do you think that this is like some 3-letter agency kind of thing? Like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, it's certainly, raises my bells, so to speak, when I look at this, because a lot of questions, like, was this all in checked baggage? Was he like literally carrying it through TSA, or was it in, because like you can transport that stuff, or most of that stuff, there's a proper way to do it. And he does post this picture in January of his luggage, which looks like a checked bag. It looks like a big bag, and it sounds like that's the kind of stuff that was, I'm guessing it was checked. And maybe when they looked at the checked bag, then they wanted to question him as to why he had that stuff, and if he had the right credentials or the right paperwork. I mean, you have to fill out paperwork if you're going to travel with that type of equipment. So, or be a LEO and have a appropriate reason to be able to do it. So, and yes, to answer your question, like, and as far as I know, an air marshal can go right on. I would think that they're armed, but I don't know for a fact. I've never actually met one on a plane before or seen one. I know they're there. They're not on every flight, but they do come and go to various flights, but they're not, loaded up like this for sure.
Yeah, but when they go through TSA, so say they have a big old bag and they check and they say, I do have weapons, or if they have anything, or even if they just have one strapped to their side, you would think that there would be some sort of huge system that they would have to go through, that when they get to TSA, they just show a badge. Does TSA go, oh, sure, go on through? Or do they check that badge? Do they scan it with the hologram or some crazy system? You would think they would have that, because otherwise all of that could be surpassed by a good fake badge, and somebody, I mean, look at what they did in 2001. Supposedly, they took that with box cutters. Imagine somebody with a 9 milli on one of these things, right? If he could just pass by, get on a plane with all of that. I don't know. You would think I'm assuming there is. Somebody's going to chime in and go, no, they actually have a really good system, and it's done by hologram, or there's a system, but I think that this makes it look like this is the worry, right? That there's some sort of pending thing. We, of course, had the DHS warning about basically people from here being the biggest threat, right? T-Man supporters. That's what they said, right? Dex, go ahead.
Well, and I don't know that he necessarily claimed on the way in, say, "Hey, let me through. I'm a marshal." I think when questioned, he had that stuff on him, and I think it even says that he did tell them that he wasn't. So maybe what it was he was his stuff was checked and he was transporting it the way you're supposed to, but maybe not the correct way you're supposed to, and he got flagged. The big deal is that he's a felon because he had a prior weapons charge, so that would be the reason why he shouldn't have those things, not that he wasn't allowed to actually check them in. But it doesn't say they were checked, so that's what I don't know. We don't know all the details here, but I'm assuming if he if he, was literally going through holding all that stuff, they would have stopped him. And I think to answer, back to your point, there's got to be some level of security that, a marshal would go through, probably some sort of secure badge or something that gets shown and scanned that identifies them. And yes, I don't think they get searched the same way everyone else does.
I don't know. Something about this does not sit well. Yeah, this just looks sketch. And then why did he have the stuff? What is he doing? It just seems like it's very sus. As far as look at by the way, his name, what are those called? What is it called when you rearrange letters and it means a different word? Like Santa and Satan. What do they call that where the same letters?
Is that an anagram?
Anagram. Look at his name. When I first saw it, and it's Soretsi Clouden. But when I first squinted my eyes, because my eyes are going bad, it looked like Secret Cloud or something. What a unique name. Soretsi? Is that Soretz or Soretsi Clouden? I don't know. Pretty unique name. That is the perp's name, right? And they say he's an executive protection officer. So he's basically security. And then federal protection officer, military police. Huh. Something sticks out about this one. We'll see, but we archive all of this on our website. So when this ends up going forward, if there's any new updates, we'll update you on it. And then, of course, we always keep, every show has that list of the bibliography. So you can go there and you can go and check back on what were the stages of what we found out. So again, if you use the search bar in the upper right-hand corner, you'll be able to find this story again if you're watching a replay, and you can find other shows. So if you're watching this show in the near future and you're like, hey, whatever happened with that, you can search his name or anything that's in the article or what we're talking about, and it will show you all of the shows that we talked about it. So if we do update it, it will be there. All right, and then really weird stuff happening here. It says Air Force relieves 2 commanders, 4 leaders at North Dakota nuclear bomber missile base. It said that the Air Force has relieved 6 leaders assigned to a North Dakota base in charge of nuclear missiles and bombers over a loss of confidence, the military branch said on Monday. It said Major General Andrew J. Gabara, commander of the 8th Air Force, relieved Colonel Gregory Mayer of the 5th Mission Support Group and Major Jonathan Welch of the 5th Logistics Readiness Squadron, both based at Minot Air Force Base. And it says that the Air Force didn't identify the commanders, but an Air Force spokesperson confirmed their identities to task and purpose. Huh? It says these personnel actions were necessary to maintain the very high standards we demand of those units entrusted with supporting our nation's nuclear mission. So this is also very sus. Why did they get taken down? Is it because they said something wrong on Twitter? Is it because of personal actions? It said that Mayor Welch and the 4 subordinate leaders were relieved of command due to a loss of confidence in their ability to complete their assigned duties. It said the Air Force did not specify why commanders had lost confidence in all 6 individuals. What is going on here? Something does not smell right about this other dude, this whole thing. The guys that are watching our nukes are being relieved. Is this something that they don't want to cause alarm about, but these 6 dudes were planning something? Dex, did you think about that option? Like this might be a cover story for something else that's going on? Or, did they get in a party at a poker night or something? Like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, certainly in my mind was cover up. I mean, there's something here because they're not telling us. Normally, you would get at least some sort of, even if it's not super detailed, you would get something a little bit more than just, we lost confidence and we're not telling you anything. And we're not even telling you who they are. I guess they confirmed the names with the reporters off the record just to validate that it's a true story, but they didn't, they weren't allowing it to be published. So this is definitely one of those that, you might want to hang on to just like the other one and see if something comes of this. If we get some other information later, it might help us connect the dots.
Esma Darlington, is it Darlington, says the 6 dudes were stopping something. Somebody else made a comment that was like, maybe they didn't do what they were told, or they did not comply with orders, right? Say that these guys were meant to push a button and launch a tactical that, of course, here's another thing. A lot of people the only scenario that they think that we will go nuclear is like a single event or a tactical nuclear weapon that is somehow, launched, maybe a Fantastic Freddy to make it look like something else. One thing I thought of is like, what if, we ended up launching something, or one of our places launched something and then they blame it on somebody else? What if these guys were told to do something horrible because they were planning to make it look like another country or the I country or this or that, and they said no, and they all collectively, denied their orders? I guess that's a crazy theory. Again, well, doesn't even sound crazy. That is a big question. If we did end up getting to the point of a nuclear scenario or something like that, how many people are involved? Obviously, the president has like the football, and what if one of the chain, somebody is able to stop it? We talked about this back when Milley ended up calling China when T-Man was, even harboring the idea of a possible preemptive strike or whatever this was. Milley ended up telling his counterpart that, oh, don't worry, if we're going to send a preemptive nuclear strike, I'll give you a call first and I'll warn you. It's like, and that guy's still in charge. I don't understand it, but people hate T-Man so much that they just want to just forget that he did that. Dex, go ahead.
I also wonder if there's some fallout from the balloon incident that maybe this may be attributable to. So I don't know if any of the planes, maybe the U-2 planes, would have gone out of Minot. I don't know, but maybe there's something to do with that. We did see a recent selfie out of a U-2 with that balloon, and then there was always a lot of questions that went down over that. The actions that were happening. So that's one other thing you could be looking at as the story potentially unfolds, if they ever tell us anything else.
NJM, Fantastic Freddy, or FF. Again, the actual words there are, in fact, those are the only two words that I ever put in a title and got hit with, like, instantly before. And that was back when the Hogg stuff, that David Hogg thing was going on with Vegas. That was crazy. Couldn't even upload. You put that in something and they were like, whoop. That's when you know it probably is a Fantastic Freddy, right? Let's see here. But yeah, so something's up with that. We'll follow it. We'll make sure. And then look at the big picture. Look at all of the other things that are going on right now. What is going on, Blue Dog? Lisa R. Hall, thank you for modding Android Architect. Ex-NYC Prepper, what is happening? Finally, the end of the movie, says Rainbow Citizen. I hope not. Let's see here. Debbie, hey, says evening, everyone. Jaleesa H. NJM, oh, no problem. And yeah, it's crazy, but there's going to be a lot of them. I'm sure that was one of the first words that they didn't want out there. Wide Awake and Angry, thank you for being here. Last warning, what's going on? WIS Jen, Willow, we've got Sweaty Haggis. What's going on? Life is Better on Stilts. Hey, nice to see you. Nice to see you over on D-Live. Jake B, Zen1AZ, and Queen BTP. Thank you guys. Thank you all for being here. Somebody says, hate bloody stopped. Ascended Master, what is happening? Nummy and everybody else, thank you guys. It says Iranian warships dock in Brazil. So a lot of different countries are working together. A lot of countries are going back and forth, doing all of these weird meetings, doing drills together. It says that 2 Iranian warships docked in Brazil on Tuesday, fueling concerns about Tehran's militarization in the region. It says that the 2 ships docked at a port in Rio de Janeiro after arriving at the Panama Canal last month. The arrival of these ships, both of which are sanctioned by the United States, sets up a potential diplomatic showdown between the B administration and Brazil, which could face sanctions for hosting the vessels. It says, quote, the docking of Iranian warships in Brazil is a dangerous development and a direct threat to the safety and security of Americans. That was Senator Ted Cruz that said that. and says these Iranian warships are already sanctioned. And so the port in Rio de Janeiro, where they are docked, is now at risk of crippling sanctions, as they are the Brazilian companies that provided them services or accepted payments. And so all foreign companies that entangle themselves with the port or those Brazilian companies in the future. So saying even just having them there, if they load things onto their ship or if they do any kind of business with them, that they will be involved in all of this, the sanctions and whatever else. Mind you, there's other stories that go into the bigger picture with Iran right now. They just made some serious threats about our former president and Mike Pompeo. So we'll talk about that here in a second. There's really big stuff today. Iran's military presence in Latin America presents a challenge for the B administration as it faces down the rise of anti-American dictators in the region. Iran has increasingly sought to boost its ties with Latin America leaders, most notably Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, by driving warships into the region. Tehran is signaling that it can move its military forces into direct confrontation with America. So, mind you, this is at the same time as this threat. Dex, can you talk about this real quick? And I'm actually gonna plug in my other monitor here. It got unplugged.
So normally we're dealing with them over in the Strait of Hormuz and in the waters around their country. And so now we're going to be putting ourselves, or they're putting themselves in a position where we're having to deal with them in other waters. And obviously waters that are much closer to our home, traversing through potentially the Gulf of Mexico or any of the Pacific regions, depending on which direction they go in and out of the Panama Canal. So they were going in and out of Panama Canal. They're docking with Brazil. That's not necessarily a good sign for ourselves, because we're supposed to have a good relationship with Brazil. They are the largest country in South America. They are also, I think, in the top 10 GDP in the world. So they're a significant country to be dealing with, and much bigger, in my opinion, than the Iran to the store country is. So definitely something we got to pay attention to. I suspect we're probably going to see some issues, maybe not necessarily hot, but definitely going to hear some confrontational issues with their ships now that they're going to be, now that they're closer to us. We'll probably hear about more run-ins with them, just like we hear about run-ins all the time, and say with Xi over in the South China Sea. So I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to hear more of this in the Gulf area or in the Panama Canal area.
So we'll end up following this, but there was also all the weird stuff that went on with the Iranian Navy and the U.S. back when T-Man was president. There was some weird events where people even thought that we used a space weapon to knock out one of their ships. Like, obviously they're making alliances. They're picking their sides. All of these countries are getting involved. In fact, South Africa drilling. When you imagine a world war, you imagine a world at war. And I don't know if there's anything that can say that this next conflict will have more countries involved than ever before, but it sure seems like it. Who will end up jumping on which side if everything does end up, getting fully kicked off? And I mean, all the countries declaring we're at war, we're this, we're that, instead of this kind of subtle backyard war we're in right now. I believe World War III has already started. It's just that nothing has been declared formally, and a lot of things are being covered up to keep people calm. But we've already heard from one of the main branches, Space Force, that their commanders believe, they said, we've already been at war in space. Like, there's a war going on right above our heads. That was a quote of one of their, top people. Again, equivalent to their, generals, right? So I just wonder what is actually happening with Iran. We're going to go into this as well. It says that Iran in the store reissues, because we've covered this before. They put out a video. The Ayatollah actually put out a video on his Twitter, his official Twitter, basically with a video that was a mock animated thing, but it was like it reminds me of like the very first Toy Story kind of animation, because it was really bad. But it was a video that showed like drones, a ground drone going into Mar-a-Lago, spotting T-Man golfing, and you could see him with his red hat, golfing at Mar-a-Lago, and it had a ground drone, simulate going into his golf course, marking with a laser, and then an air drone comes in and comes down and destroys him, right? And then at the end of this video, they officially put out, it shows guys at the control center controlling it, and on one of their control panel, like, it looks like a gear stick or something. It's like one of those things that hangs off your mirrors with Soleimani's face on it, like in remembrance, like our hero. And they put that out. That was last year. Now they're reissuing a threat and says renewed threats to target former President DT and top members of his former cabinet, including former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, which is also a very, he's loud and out there as well. And he's on the media circuit for the 2020 perishing of the top military commander, Qasem Soleimani. It says, quote, God willing, we are looking to take out, in not those words, T-Man and Pompeo and military commanders who issued the order should be forcefully perished, basically unalived. Amir Ali Hazajit, head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force, told Iranian state television on Friday. The threats are nothing new, though this time they came as Tehran was announcing a new long-range cruise missile capable of flying more than 1,000 miles, which could give it the additional striking capabilities to U.S. forces in the Middle East. So saying it wouldn't necessarily be hitting New York, but it would be hitting our forces somewhere, all right? So of course, Iran fired back at the 2020 perishing of its top Revolutionary Guard commander by launching a series of missiles at U.S. troops stationed at 2 separate bases in Iraq. No American soldiers were taken out in the attack, or at least that's what they say. That Iran, that time described as a slap in the face for the U.S., vowing to strike at those responsible for Soleimani's death. So there's a lot of events that are all happening that are all somewhat connected right now. This again is it's in the bigger picture. You see a lot from the main hot points all over the world. There's something going on with all of them. And I guess if you're a really big optimist, you're basically saying that nothing's going to happen with any of the hot points, with Israel and Iran, with North Korea and South Korea, with China and Taiwan, with India and Pakistan. You've got all of these different hot points going off all at the same time, and not even talking about the smaller, less known rivalries that, say, whoever's South Africa's enemies with, or Cuba's enemies with, or Venezuela's, all these other places that have these kind of conflicts going on. I guess people are hoping that none of these, they're all going to be fine. Everything's going to be good, even though all of the countries of the world are lining up for a world war. Dex, do you have anything to add to as far as these threats and the renewed threat?
Well, it's been a while, and I guess it's time for them to refresh them, I guess, but they obviously didn't do anything yet. Maybe they've tried and just haven't been successful. I don't know. But it's definitely something that I would, if I was T-Man or, Pompeo, I would probably, make sure that my protection levels are high enough, because it's, when they reissue these things, that sort of gets a lot of people potentially moving. And a lot of times this is signaling for their part. Now, on the flip side, it's also just rhetoric that they tend to put out. So you can, on one hand, sort of dismiss it because they've said it before and nothing happened. But at the same time, you kind of take it a little serious. I would. Makes me think.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Somebody said, what was that? Hunter Breed says, you are super shadow banned right now. Yeah, I've been feeling that way for the last couple of weeks here. Let's see here. By the way, how many viewers do we have right now? I can't see it on
3,800.
Okay, so that's the thing. When we start seeing that because they don't send out notifications anymore, or the notifications, like I just got the notification for yesterday's stream because I'm signed up for my notifications through YouTube's official one came to me a day late. I hear it all the time. People say that they got our notification 3 days later. And by the way, in the news world, 3 days later is like there's no reason for somebody to watch that. So make sure you guys really have a good part in growing this and growing our community and getting us to the point where we can get back to where we were. We were further ahead a few years ago with our Discord and our state groups. You guys can help out by sharing this out with multiple people. I believe when we meet the right person, or if there's somebody out there that has influence at some of these places, please help us out. Again, there's definitely stuff on the back end that, they don't share with the creator. We absolutely know this is a problem for everybody right now. So give us a hand. But yeah, make sure to share our stuff out. Make sure to get this out on all of your social media platforms, and make sure to share our short shareable videos. Make sure to also expand and go see all of the Foogle fam members that are also doing channels. That's how we spread our message. So before we continue, I want to remind you guys, if you want to support us in a different way and get yourself a really, really awesome package of food, whether that be a 3-day kit, a week kit, or right now they have a huge sale on the 3-month where you will actually get $200 worth of free gear. You can go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. If you don't have any of the freeze-dried kind of packed survival food yet, this is a really good introduction into that. This is a whole lot of bulk food for a very low price. And what it gets you is something that will last 25 years. If you purchase it now, you're not going to have to pay inflated prices in 2 or 3 years. In fact, freeze-dried food in general has tripled in price in just the last 3 years. If you would have bought this 3 years ago right now, you would still have 22 years left on the shelf. If you buy it now, in 3 years from now, if this does triple again, you will have 22 years left, and you will have a 3-month supply that's still good, again, for over 2 decades. So this is a really, really great deal. It is one of the most affordable. I know that, this is something that everybody needs, but everybody puts very low on their priority list. Average American has 3 days of food in their fridge, which is pretty bad, or 3 days of food in their house, which is bad. But this way you can get stocked up, put it aside, and just, at least if you get the amount that you really, really think you need, then you can be done with it, put it away, and you won't have to think about it for years. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/prep. Not only with our link will you get a great deal, but you're also going to get $200 worth of free gear if you end up getting the 3-month supply. And I believe it's kind of a tiered thing. There's going to be discounts. You have to go check out what current is because you may be watching the replay. All right, and that's, again, marfooglenews.com/EMP. That also supports our independent news. So thank you. We don't have a multi-channel network to protect us. We have the Foogle fam and the Marfia. North Korea's Kim orders fundamental transformation of agriculture amid reports of food shortages. There's always something wrong with what's coming out of North Korea. We've heard that they're literally starving there, that the grocery stores are cardboard stand-ups. But they say that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un urged government officials to engineer a fundamental transformation in agriculture production. State media reported on Tuesday amid fears that the country's food shortage is worsening. It says that Kim's hitting grain production targets this year was a top priority and emphasized the importance of stable agricultural production during the second day of the 7th enlarged plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. I swear they just add a bunch more words. They're like, what sounds more professional? According to state news agency KCNA, it says the report did not elaborate on what measures North Korea would take, but Kim said that the changes needed to happen in the next few years. I question what is actually going on here and if they're working with some other countries and they're going to be planting or doing some other projects that are secretive for somebody else and helping out with something on another. Dex, did you think about why? I don't know. They never put stuff like this out there. They never admit that they're having problems. They always say, "Oh well, our poop doesn't stink because we don't poop. We don't have bathroom. We don't. The president there doesn't even have a bunghole. How are they telling us that they have agricultural problems?"
Well, that's just it. They're not telling us that they have agricultural problems. They're telling us they're trying to have a fundamental transformation in agricultural production, which then leads everybody to think that they have a problem. And they probably do have a problem, just given the state of things there and how difficult it is for them to survive as a hermit nation. But yeah, this is one that is, got a lot of questions. Especially for, and maybe what they should do is maybe spend a little less on all those missiles they keep wasting over the water, and maybe feed their people. Maybe that would help. I don't know. But it sounds like that they're potentially in trouble. That's what the speculation is. They're not coming right out and saying it. They, even when they had, the cough that went through, they never said anything. They never said it was bad. They never said they had any problems. They actually said they were fine. They didn't have any issues. So they tend to never tell us the truth. They don't report the stuff accurately. And in this case, they're making these statements that just tend that we have to like infer, what does it really mean?
I don't know, but Denzel apparently told me a very important fact. Did you know that there's no squirrels in North Korea? Facts. Again, I'm not verifying that. I don't believe that. I don't know if that's verified or unverified information, but just so you know, I don't want to be called fake news over some squirrels. But I could believe that. I don't know though. I don't know. Then what would distract the kids with ADHD? I don't get it. Which, by the way, I have, so I can say it. China says it's organized troops after U.S. spy plane flew over Taiwan Strait. We said when this happened that, something was going to be pointed out here. In fact, the other day when the initial article came out, we knew that there was going to be something that came out of this, and it's really obvious when they get angry about something that this is going to be their excuse to get stuff. Mind you, in the big picture of things we're going to cover here in a second, that all of a sudden there was new news that came out, and after 3 years of calling a certain theory a conspiracy, now mainstream media has now jumped on board. Now it's totally okay to say. Now everybody accepts where the CV came from. At the same time, this is right after the balloons. This is after all of this other talk, after these speeches saying everything's going back to Made in America. They are separating from China, and it looks very, very just like planned out. And as far as what's happening here, it's like it's obvious that that things are pumping up, and I wouldn't be surprised very soon here if they tell us like, well, now we believe that it's going to be within 3 months that they take Taiwan or this or that. They need an event, or they say, it looks like they need an event to make an excuse for why they're doing more troops or why they're doing this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat below. It says Chinese military officials denounced the United States in a public statement this week after a patrol and reconnaissance aircraft operated by the U.S. Navy. This is, again, Dex, this is the same one with the CNN crew, right? There isn't another one besides the one with the CNN crew on it, right?
That's a good question. I think that there was two incidences, one with the CNN crew, but I could be wrong. This might be because they don't mention it on here, and it would have been part of the story.
And on the last one,
I think this. The first one was with them, but they actually flew a jet up to them. And then this last one, I don't know that. I think this is separate. That's just my opinion, though. I could be wrong.
But they do this all the time. And the last piece that came out, and they said that they were pissed off about it, they also did not say that that was the same P-8 Poseidon, which was obviously, the CNN crew on it. This has happened over the years many times. In fact, I believe the one with 2020 or 60 Minutes, whatever one did it on the Spratly Islands when they were first being made, that flight I think was a P-8 Poseidon or one of those headquarter command center things. Which developed for maritime surveillance. I believe the last time this happened with the media on board and everything else was like 60 Minutes or 2020, one of the two. And the same thing happened when the Spratlys were being made. But they don't say it specifically in any of these that this is the same flight. I just think it's funny that CNN goes there with it, is able to report this out, get it out to the world like, oh, they told us to leave. Well, no crap. If people follow the news, they've known this for 5 years that this area, that the radio comes on and says, get out of here. This is the airspace of China. This is nothing new. But now, since that made a flight, which I think that this has happened like every 2 weeks, they're like, oh no, maritime international waters, blah, blah, blah. But now they're using it as an excuse to say that they're gathering troops or doing this. And it says, however, Chinese authorities claim the warplane deliberately disrupted the regional situation. And, well, I would think it would be deliberate if the CNN crew was on there, and jeopardized the peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait in remarks published by the government's website affiliated with the People's Liberation Army. It says tensions over the Taiwan Strait, a waterway measuring about 110 miles wide that separates Taiwan from continental Asia, have intermittently sprung up between the U.S. and China for years. Beijing has continued to closely surveil the island, which is technically called the Republic of China, and which the Chinese Communist Party has claimed, even though Taiwan functions as an independent and democratically ruled nation. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense reported that 14 PLA aircraft and 3 naval vessels in the area surrounding the island early on Tuesday morning, and that the Ministry of Defense, the Defense Ministry, said that Taiwan's armed forces, quote, have monitored the situation and dispatched aircraft, naval vessels, and land-based missile systems to respond to these activity. It says, condemning the U.S. warplane's presence over the Taiwan Strait and alleging that the U.S. hyped this publicly, I'm guessing this is CNN, the Chinese military also released a statement that it attributed to Army Senior Colonel Shi Yi, and it says that the PLA Eastern Theater Command had organized troops to track and monitor the U.S. aircraft in the whole course and had everything under control. It says the troops of the PLA Eastern Theater Command remain on high alert at all times to resolutely safeguard China's national sovereignty and territorial integrity. It says the United States will continue to fly, sail, and operate anywhere an international law allows, including within the Taiwan Strait, the Navy stated. By operating within the Taiwan Strait in accordance with international law, the United States upholds the navigational rights and freedoms of all nations. They've put that same exact quote. I think they legally have to put something like that as far as their statement. But this is something that eventually is possibly going to be used as, one of these planes ends up crashing into another. If a jet or whatever, they make them hit each other, do whatever. I mean, that's war. All you need is one mistake in this area of things. And then Belarus Lukashenko arrives in China on state visit. So I'll make a prediction here. And this is a common sense one that most of you are like, oh yeah, I make that prediction too. After he leaves from China, within 2 weeks, we're going to hear some huge news with the Lukashenko making some sort of decision, and it's completely unrelated to his visit to China. And of course, maybe I even predict maybe China will even chime in and maybe not approve of what he's doing, or put out an opinion or an op-ed about, well, we don't think it's the right course, and we believe in peace. Something is going on here after Lukashenko goes there. Belarus, the place that just got attacked, and they are, again, we'll cover, they claim that wasn't activists within their country or that it was fake or something. Something is going to happen. So this will probably end up on a tweet in 2 weeks from now. What do you guys think? Let me know. It says that Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko arrived in China on a state visit on Tuesday. According to the Belta agency, his plane landed at Beijing airport. It is expected... There we go. It is expected that the Belarusian leader will hold talks with the Chinese President Xi Jinping in private, and with other officials taking part, meeting the top Chinese officials and the leadership of major Chinese corporations are on the agenda. Well, why would he need to meet with major Chinese corporations? These are all business deals. What is going on right now is this is all business. And this is also, I believe, Xi is heavily involved in all of this. And the people not only with Xi, but above Xi and beside Xi, all of these oligarchs, they have a huge part of it. And I think people massively underestimate China. Frankly, look weak when you're strong and look strong when you're weak. That they're doing that to the T. Dex, go ahead.
Do you think these corporations he's meeting with are military corporations, and he's meeting with them about procuring weapons that he could then in turn hand over to Vlad?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like they're gonna be sending home some stuff, or that they're gonna do a deal with Lukashenko and then get them back over to Vlad. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think he's the middleman. He's going to act as the middleman. They can't sell him, or if they go directly to Vlad, then it's going to cause a problem. But if they set up a relationship with Lukashenko and send them into him, then he can turn around and give them to Vlad, and then everybody can say it wasn't direct sale.
So, Charles said that the Chinese economy has collapsed. I just ask if anybody has any information about that. As far as I have heard, that China is doing more business deals with more countries in the world. In fact, the U.S. has a giant debt to China. They have done the Belt and Road. They have all sorts of things. They do more trade with the world than the U.S. does now. So I guess I don't exactly believe that. I've heard a lot of stuff put out there about how they're making bigger gold purchases than ever in history. They're gobbling up supplies. They're doing all sorts of stuff. I guess if you have a statement to make about why you think that their economy has collapsed, please let me know. Educate me if you know a lot on it. But I don't frankly believe that. So maybe I'm wrong, and I will correct myself if I am. But if that is the case, then that would also be bad, because when major countries like that start going broke, or if they are about to collapse, then they'll probably want to take over another country that, may be in charge of almost all of the world's computer chips, which is now the future. And I would think that would make a faster invasion. They're building like crazy. They're just blank checks to everything, and they don't really have to pay labor costs. There's all sorts of ways that they cut corners financially. So, Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think they're like Venezuela collapsed yet. I think it's clear that they had all their real estate issues, and that didn't get resolved. Okay, then they had the effects of closing all their manufacturing. That caused a huge hit to their GDP. And remember, he didn't want to report what their numbers look like, especially as he was up for election with the CCP there. We just reported about all the cargo ships backing up, and not backing up, but the containers backing up. And they were backing up because nobody's buying anything globally. So all of a sudden they have all these containers just stacking up because they're not putting out as much goods really as they did before. Even though they're now ramping back up coming out of CD. So yeah, it's clear that they're having their fair share of financial hardship, but I wouldn't write it off. I'd go back to what you said, Adam, which is absolutely true. When somebody's in dire straits like that, or they see that things may be bad, that is an opportunity for them to potentially do bad things. Now, it's also an opportunity for them to, look for help, and then through that negotiate and maybe not do those bad things. But it's also certainly one in which you're going to see potentially them to want to take something over or resolve a problem or whatnot to fix that.
Okay, and then a lot of the sources on, say, China's economy is collapsing. I see the source and I'm like, well, I barely believe anything out of these guys. But at the same time, they're saying that, so it says China's economy is collapsing. China's economic growth falls to less than half the previous year. The number two economy grew by 3% in 2022. Now, if you look at what the last 3 years has, maybe they saved for a rainy day or something. Maybe some stuff happened. All I'm saying is that, yeah, I'm sure they would have a huge hit. They shut down their entire country for 3 years. But some believe that was on purpose, that there's a greater purpose for this. and they have some sort of long Hail Mary pass here waiting because if they take number one, they're going to get all of that back and more. There's a lot of things that are changing, but there's a lot of rumors of them starting digital currency, that they are possibly going to be taking stuff. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that they did that on purpose? There's a lot. It says that they're in trouble, that their I get the housing market and that all of these mortgages, millions of mortgages unpaid, but that affects their economy. That probably affects their people. But I guess how much does that affect the government and what they're doing? They'll willingly screw their people over. They could also then say, that the money would. I guess the people are going to be the ones who are hurt. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and let's not forget, and this is more longer term, they have a population issue too. They're in decline, and that's something that will eventually catch up with them significantly. And it's something they have to plan on now. And that's why all of a sudden you see them switch gears from this, we've got rules on, how many children you can have, to be like, no, you can have all you want, and we'll incentivize you to, because they realized that they backed off too fast.
Well, they definitely have millions of units that are not being bought. I mean, they have ghost cities. They have entire cities of empty housing. So I've heard some of the theories on it. Again, if they are collapsing and if they are absolutely about to just hit rock bottom, then that's not good. That I would assume that means they're going to use their military to try to get back into a good position. But yeah, I guess that's why but I just don't believe anything anymore. I guess there's just so much bad information out there. So if you have great information and you disagree with me, then please send me your information, and you may see an episode in the near future where I correct myself. I don't personally believe it, but I'm not as educated as the next person on it. So let me know, educate me in the comments down below. Tell me why you believe that they are collapsing and that they're on their last leg. And then drones fly deep inside of Russia. Putin orders border tightened. So these drones ended up flying way, and there was many things that happened here. There were like 10 events that happened inside of Russia's country, including their televisions got hacked and did a missile attack alert. This is some really funky stuff. But apparently drones went over the border, and some as close as 60 miles away from Moscow, which I think people made a big deal when they were putting, S-400 missiles like 400 miles away from Moscow. Dex, do you want to comment? I talked about this on my short shareable video. Again, you guys should go over and watch that. I put all of the 10, 12 things that happened here in that video if you want to know about them over there. Dex, go ahead.
Busy day for Vlad, that's for sure. It looks like they had numerous drone invasions. Some they didn't want to admit to, and that's why the story is pretty long. So guys, go read it or go watch the video that we put out together. We've got the summary of it all, but some made it as close as 60 miles from Moscow. Some of them went into apartment buildings. Some of them, they went and they closed the airport in St. Petersburg. Now they came back and said, oh no, we were doing, our own drills, blah, blah, blah. But no, reality, all this was going down at the same time. So they had reported that there was a UFO around St. Petersburg airport. So they closed all the airspace there. Then they had, at the same time, they had the TVs going off with missile alerts. And then they said, no, that was hacked. That was hackers that hacked the TV stations and that were broadcasting missile alerts. So if ever there's been a big hit, and I don't want to say big as in the sense that like, oh, wow, they really did damage to, people or property. None of that happened. But as far as like really getting across the line, getting a lot of things through, having a lot of things happen at one time. Even an oil field was on fire. All of this in one day over there doesn't look good for Vlad. And this is, hot on the heels of him trying to drum up all of this support, all of the people there wanting to, getting them on board with the hey, we're going to take all of our students and we're sending them to the front lines, right? Get out of college and now go to the front lines. We'll get you a house. Now we don't know how to pay for that house, but we'll get housing for you. So that's a good thing. All of that rah he was doing, and then boom, this big sort of black eye in his face. So even the leaderships over there are saying, hey, this needs an immediate response. We should, retaliate, et cetera, et cetera. Not like they're not, because they're in the middle of a conflict with the country. So, and then I do go back, and I think you did this too, Adam. You thought about the report that came out from some of the insiders, alleged insiders from their intelligence organization, SVR, saying that there was going to be potential. I don't know if it was them. I think that was UKR that came out at that same time, saying that there was going to be deep hits into Vlad's country, but they didn't say it was necessarily going to be them. It could be anybody, because we're in the middle of a conflict, and insinuating that it could be the West or NATO. So all of those things sort of aligned. Today was a big day, or what we're reporting on now over the last 24 to 48 hours was a big time in Vlad's time. So I expect to see something big in return. I don't know if this is big enough to warrant my guess is a whole nother missile barrage or something like that, and probably against infrastructure is what we'll probably see in return. It probably won't happen immediately.
Sorry about that, Dex. I was trying to fix your audio and I screwed it up even worse. I'm glad I could tell you were at the very end. Sorry about that. But could you say the last sentence you said one more time? Oh, because you couldn't hear me. Could you say your last sentence one more time?
Yeah, I was basically saying that I think that if there is a retaliation of significant size, it would more than likely fall into that category of going after the infrastructure again with a missile barragement. I don't know that it would be, tactical or anything like that. But this is definitely a black eye, so to speak, or at least the way it's being reported, a black eye for Putin.
Yeah, and as far as the events that are going on here, this is offensive in nature. I mean, we're going to see more and more events happen within Russia. I mean, this is really getting to a point of no return. The things that are happening here, everybody doubts everything right now. Nobody knows what to believe. They believe everybody's in on it, and you might be right. But the end result is even more terrifying. Because it doesn't matter what way you believe, and most all of us believe there's something evil coming, this will be a tool to bring that in, to usher in a whole. Think about where all of the richest, most elite people in the world want us to be in just 7 short years. When they read out what they're saying that the new world's going to be like, as far as own nothing and be happy and all of these things, and we're going to reduce this and reduce that. They're serious about this. And if we were to go there, people are like, wait, how would we get there in just 7 years? I'll tell you, a lot's changed in just 3. In fact, a lot changed in about a year. 1 year, and they turned the world upside down. CV changed the way we still live. I mean, I still can't go to a 24-hour grocery store after CV. When CV started, all that ended. Every state might be different, but now you can't even go to the grocery store at 3 a.m. They don't have them anymore. They don't have 24-hour anything. They have 90 self-checkouts and, one person working a checker at a huge, massive store. It's like things changed, and they didn't go back when CV was over. They started this whole come to your car thing. All of these things were being put in on a purpose. And now, of course, all of the robots that they started funding and developing during CV, because they were like, oh, well, we could use a robot for that. That's taken a 180 mile per hour just step on the gas. And now all of these things that people had a problem with, then found convenient during CV, are just moving forward. As far as this conflict goes, this is all going to happen, as all of us are saying, myself, my peers, And they're going to deny it up until the second that there's a freaking unexploded bomb in their backyard, smoking in the grass. Like, no, I don't know. I think it's propaganda. That missile looks fake to me. You're like, dude, it's burning your leg. Well, it's my false leg. I don't believe it. It's happening in front of our eyes. They are lining up the planet. Everything is about to change, and people are going to deny it until the second that it hits home. Even when it happens, if something happens in any other state, if somebody in California sees a attack in New York, they're going to go, I don't know, it's on TV, so I don't believe it. People don't believe anything anymore. They'll say, it looks like a fake video. But of course, the people in the New York neighborhood, whatever neighborhood gets hit or something, they'll know. Nobody believes anything. And you don't think that's on purpose? This is all according to plan. We have now been divided. We're being conquered. And we're being confused. We have conflicting information on almost everything. And everything we know is truth is being fact-checked as false. Think about that. How bad does it mess with a person's mind when they know something is absolutely the truth and they have everyone around them saying, nope, that's fake? That just infuriates people. They're trying to get a rise out of this. That's my thought on it anyways. What is your thoughts? Let me know. And thank you. I got to catch up here. Lots of really awesome people popped in tonight. Lots of really great comments down here. So I want to point out, first one out the door, Carol, thank you for the super chat. Says, love all your shows. Appreciate your work. Carol McLean. Carol, thank you. And I see you've got a new name or a new name there. Same, but different. Hello, Foogle fam, says John. Thank you so much for your support. K Rec, thank you for the super sticker. Says hype. Carol, again, thank you for the super sticker. Defiant 1969. From Michael, aka Ferret Dad, got to watch this person. She is finding out a lot about Ohio. Go to the real reason on Ohio train crash at Squirrel Tribe. Oh, I know Squirrel Tribe, and I think she changed her name or something. But that I do like her channel, and I've watched a bunch of her shorts. And then, just so you know, I hope you know, her husband has a really cool channel as well. Her husband is a prepper channel too. They're both really great. And then K-Rec, 5 years now being a fan. Love the show, love the fam. Great job, Marf and Dex. Keep on, keep it on. Well, thank you, K-Rec. And then DJ, thank you so much. Appreciate the support. Jaleesa H, thank you. Carol, thank you. Thank you. Linda Sullivan from Canada, thank you so much for your support. Kenny Crowder, thank you for not only your support over on news, but over here as well. Hi, Adam, Dex, and Mods, and Foogleham before bed saying good evening. Be safe, love your way. Kenny Crowder, if you are already asleep, I hope you watch the replay because there's more to come. Debbie Pendleton, thank you so much for the support as well and the super sticker. Appreciate you and Dex every morning heading to work. JC4324, thank you. And I hope share it with your coworkers if you can. Neil Nelson, thank you. And of course, Neil Nelson, thank you again for your support other ways as well. I appreciate you sharing and liking. Thank you. XNYC Prepper, Depopulation Agenda. Yeah, well, that's everywhere, right? Imminent Cyber Corporation, says Noob. What's going on? Thanks. I appreciate the super sticker. And then Carol again and Abide. Thank you, and thank you. Looks like the number one super sticker there. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. A total Russian collapse is surprisingly close. Or so they say. Like how they show an actual collapsing bridge. Says that was the Kerch one, right? It says, as Moscow's latest offensive in UKR slowly but bloodily cranks up, the next phase of this ghastly conflict has well and truly arrived. Contrary to expectations, the UKR people are bravely and successfully resisting the tens of thousands of fresh Russian recruits being thrown at them. Nevertheless, according to many Western observers, the chances of a total Russian collapse in the coming year are slim. It says, I am less certain. We could be surprised. Far from being cowed, Zelensky's government is emboldened. Kiev is openly preparing its own major thrust against Russian ground forces in the spring. Vadim Shkebitsky, UKR's deputy military intelligence chief, said that this week that the counteroffensive will aim to, quote, drive a wedge between Crimea and the Russian mainland. The UKRs are determined to, in his words, liberate all occupied territories, including Crimea. So they're essentially, by the way, there's a lot of statements that say not only are they're going on the offensive, who knows, maybe the drones or something are to get troops somewhere else so they can go down and do this. It's looking like, of course, they're going to retake Crimea, or at least try. It says now General Ben Hodges, former commander of U.S. forces in Europe, has devised a strategy he believes would not only enable UKR to retake Crimea, but would precipitate a total Russian military implosion. So I want to point out the numbers we showed yesterday for the volunteer forces. The entire Ukrainian military, it showed that their forces was like 260,000 troops. And then it showed the Russian military was 850,000. And I don't believe that included any of the conscripts. I believe the conscripts were separate than their actual military. And it put that right on the page. It's like, come and fight for us. You can come from any country and fight for us. And I was thinking, man, that's honesty right there. Basically telling people that there's 4 to 1, 4 soldiers for every 1 volunteer that's coming. And I was thinking, man, how are they doing so well? Even though is it because our weapons? But we haven't even sent the craziest weapons, and we know that Russia has better weapons than what we have sent, because we haven't sent the newest generation anything. So when Russia doesn't have our weapons, but they definitely have way better weapons than these older weapons right now, how is it true that they are losing to older weapons? I don't understand this. And to less troops. They're saying it's the brute will of this country. Just want to point out, there's been a lot of weird things that have gone on, including 9 of their main people right under Zelensky, including his second-hand guy, that ended up resigning and was being questioned because he had $1 million houses and $1 million cars. All of these guys were. So people were questioning, like, where is this money coming from, right? So that also gives you the idea that just a chance that not all of this money is going to the right place. So if they're not utilizing every single cent for their military, if they have less troops, if they have gear that is years behind, how are they winning? Is it like, in Vietnam where it's home court advantage and they know the land and they've got traps set up? Dex, do you get what I'm saying? Like, they've got older stuff, less troops, all of this, and they're basically saying that they're not only going to win, but they're going to go into Russia and take back Ukrainian Crimea.
This narrative on both sides, they both have it, right? And what's funny is,
go ahead.
We're going to actually cover in the next article the opposite opinion. That says we're the ones that are running out, and so this notion, I guess, this is the crazy part about conflict, and this is the crazy part about our media and the way things are reported or not reported. There used to be a time when there was a lot of transparency in information flow, and then that would have probably been pre-Vietnam, and I think that our military sort of learned their lesson with what happened in Vietnam about the free flow and transparency of information with press. And as we saw in, say, the Gulf and other events after, things got a lot more controlled. And even now what we've got super control over the press, and no longer anybody at the front lines or in any of the action zones. So all we get is this one-sided information from these varying opinions, like they're going to run out and UKR is going to win, and then the flip side is no, the West is running out and Vlad's going to win. And I guess that's the expectation from the Ganda point of view, right? But what we really want is the truth. What we really want is to know what's truly going on, like what's really happening with the money we sent. How many people are actually perishing or not on either side? What is really happening with the munitions we're sending? How much is left in our own stockpile? What are we really giving up everything we have, and are we making ourselves weaker because of it or not? Like, we don't know those answers, and I think that's what's struggling. And as you're showing this other article, this is a very dissenting piece. It was in the Herald Tribune, I believe it is the name of it. It's obviously published on Yahoo, but that's a Gannett company, so it's a media company here. It's a Western based media company. That's an opinion piece. So again, this is opinion. So take that for what it is. Probably just like the prior article, but he's basically the most important part here is they're saying no. NATO is almost out of munitions. We can't produce enough munitions to support the conflict in UKR, but Vlad can, and Vlad can outproduce us. So due to that, we're destined to lose this, because all we're going to do is continue to try to pay our way out of this conflict, which will take years, and then we'll eventually burn out and be done with it, just like we've done in other instances, like the Stan and other places where we just spent way too long and way too much money. In interesting perspectives, both of these articles literally say the exact opposite thing of each other.
But here's the thing. It says because the facts are that NATO is almost out of munitions, including rockets and weapon systems. Say that's not true. But say we're anywhere close to that, or say we're not at full, right? The way that Russia has acted with this up until just about a month and a half ago, like 9 months in, they never took any of their latest gen jets over the border. They didn't send in their T-90 tanks. They sent in all of their old stuff. They sent in untrained conscripts right off the street, 55-year-old men, to hold 100-year-old rifles, to pilot a 40-year-old tank, and go in there and get smashed. How did they get smashed? A $500,000 missile that we sent? That takes one $500,000 missile out of our ammunition. You keep doing that. You keep sending in something crappy or a blow up or something, a freaking inflatable. It gets hit with a $500 thing. They send in a cheap Iranian drone. That gets taken down. A $20,000 drone gets taken out with a $500,000 missile. That is one less missile that we have. You just keep doing this until we have actually given them and depleted all this stuff. They say the Vladian people are getting taken out left and right. Maybe it's their gear that is getting taken out, but maybe it's gear they were trying to throw away. This is something that I think could be a possibility, where they are drawing our fire. They're purposely sending in things to get taken out, to use up our ammunition, to use up as much as they possibly can, while saving all their good stuff. Not only just for Russia this, but what if that has something to do with China? If China was to win an invasion, China has not used any of their stuff. They have all of their stockpiles, all of their military stuff. Nothing has been used. They say, they might be sending them to Russia. What if they're just sending things that can also be sent across the border to be destroyed with $500,000 missiles? Then we are then close to out, or we have to manufacture as fast as we can, but we are at a disadvantage because of that. Then they take Taiwan, and all of a sudden you have an issue where we don't have the weapons to fight the two-front war that is coming. Just an idea, just a thought. I'm starting to think that way. It just seemed, look at the strategy that they went with this. Anybody that questions the narrative here is, you're carrying Putin's water. No, I am just looking at it critically, because this is getting pretty scary. And who knows? Do people not think that there's people on the inside from other countries in our military? Sorry, I didn't want to make it obvious. People that might, I don't know, call the other side and give them a heads up of a surprise attack of the military they're running. Don't know. Something's a little odd. Russia has just one tank factory churning out 20 tanks a month, with demand outstripping production by a factor of 10. This is, of course, a report. We hear all sides of this, where they don't have anything, they can't produce anything, they're running out. We have constantly waited a couple weeks and found out stuff was false. They said, they only have enough missiles to do 3 more attacks. And then 3 attacks later, there were another 3 attacks. We literally showed you this, where after 3 attacks, they put out another article saying, now they're almost out. They only have enough for 3 attacks. And then another 3 attacks, big ones that were all publicized. Then they go, they didn't listen to the sanctions and they're producing stuff that they're not supposed to be producing. And that's why they still have missiles. But they only have enough for a few more attacks. Now we're sitting here months later. I mean, they're ready for a years-long conflict. And if they have to pause sending missiles over to make them, that they'll do that. If they need to call China or any of their other allies and get them, they'll get them. This is going to continue a long, long time. So American people need to start asking, like, when are they going to run out of these UKR soldiers? If they are truly outnumbered 4-1, then at some point, no matter how much will they have, they're going to start losing. And the reason why they are still in the fight, which most people agree on, is because they have been sent a lot of equipment. A lot. If they didn't have that equipment, well, heck, they don't even have jets. If they didn't have the equipment, then they probably wouldn't still be around. So the question is, after they run out of their people, whose people are they going to use? They're telling you that Vlad can only make 20 tanks a month. But what they're also pointing out is, again, this is the same Russia that just did a speech about how they need to use their real experiences from World War II and apply that here. Russia against Germany. Hitler made a statement that he was absolutely blown away. Russia used a tactic nobody knew in World War II, that they had 35,000 tanks. That's huge. Giant number. Hitler himself is on a recording, an actual audio recording, a rare audio recording of him saying, when they told me that they had 35,000 tanks, I told that person, I said, you're seeing ghosts. You're seeing double. You're nuts. You just took something. He goes, but then I was out there and I saw them with my own eyes. And I said, oh my gosh, 35,000 tanks? He thought it was unreal. It was unbelievable. So he surprised Hitler with 35,000 tanks. They directly pointed out that they're going to be doing historical tactics that they have in previous wars. They say that they're making 20 tanks a month, but can we believe that? They could have 10 factories pumping these things out secretly that nobody knows about. Just the same, the U.S. could be, China could be, and all of these other ones. Heck, we found out that China had these gigantic structures where they were making not only jets, planes, boats, Navy equipment, and satellites couldn't see them. So it's like they're not accounting that all of these countries can do stuff secretly. And now that there's no new start, there's no flyovers. Remember, a couple years before this, they actually stopped the back and forth flyovers over their countries. China, here's a suspicious thing. China took out a lot of the flight radar equipment. They manually went in, and if somebody had those flight radar equipments, they actually stripped those out, and they said, no, this is a national security thing. We don't want you having flight radar over our country. What does that tell you? They're probably hiding something. Or they're building something, testing something, flying something that they don't want you to know about. Dex, what do you think about the whole tank situation? And then comment on that. And then Belarus official says the claim. So if you can talk about the claim that was fake, and then the tanks.
Well, the tanks just make
sense. I mean, the sense that they can only do about 20 a month, and they're probably losing more than that. So that's just That's the stats. So as far as the claim with Belarus, we actually said this yesterday. I know I said it, that this whole thing might actually be a cover story. And now what is happening is a senior Belarus official came out and said, hey, they're dismissing it as a fake claim from that activist group. In other words, I guess it happened, but they're saying that the activist group isn't the one that did it. So then who did it? And are they saying that because they don't want to give credit to that group, or are they saying that because they want to then point the finger to someone else so they can then involve themselves in the conflict? And that someone else would be an outsider. And they said if somebody attacks us from the outside, then that would be a reason for us to put our troops in. Now, very interesting that this is all happening while Lukashenko's over in China right now. He's not even at home to deal with this, and this is going down. And that's kind of strange because we'd reported yesterday he was planning to go to CG, and then today he's there. So that was, I guess, the plan was really I'm leaving, not we're going to do it soon. We thought it was just something that was going to be coming up in maybe the next week or so. So yeah, they're making the claim that it's not that activist group that said that was taking claim for it. So, of course, nobody can actually validate any of this information other than probably Belarus, since it's their base that it happened to, and maybe Vlad, because it was their equipment that it happened to, and their AWACS airplane or A-50 spy plane that they lost in that attack. So we'll see what comes of this. I think it's probably a setup there.
Yeah, I played the clip yesterday. It was like on the 16th, we did a show, and it was like when Lukashenko officially came out and he said, the only way that we're going to go and fight with Russia is if any of these guys come into our country and do stuff to us. And then that event happens. Then the mainstream media goes, oh, well, we know he said that a couple weeks ago, but don't worry, it was activists inside their own country. Now the 4D chess of this, which we don't know if it's Ganda or it was, or now it's backwards or reverse psychology. Now they're saying that was fake. It's like, oh my gosh, this is just so backwards. And let's see here. Actually, James Wright, I'll get to that. Adam, I saw that NATO is going to allow UKR in. Do you have any info? Well, they've been saying it for a long time. Dex, yeah, so we have that in a second here.
Well, it's not we don't have it. I know it from the conversation today.
I have a piece at the end here for it. But
okay, cool.
No, you can just say what why don't you answer that one?
It was a reporter asked Stoltenberg, Jen Stoltenberg today. And he said, yeah, of course, we've all agreed that UKR will become a member. So that's what everybody's going, oh, they're becoming a member. But in reality, what he said is, and they said this before, they want them to become a member. But, and this is the rest of his quote, at the same time, it's a long-term perspective. What is the issue now is to ensure that UKR prevails as a sovereign independent nation. So just like we've said, and we've said before, is if they were to allow them in right this second, then all of a sudden, all the NATO members have to go into conflict directly with Vlad. So they will let them in when this deal is over. They're not going to do it before.
And I have this. I believe this is the whole thing right here. The back and forth. It says by NATO Secretary Jen Stoltenberg, and then I believe the audio of that is on here. But again, I'll get you the correct link to that. But again, they've said this for a while that they will be that they will let them in. Everyone is, by the way, nonstop on every platform, on every Twitter and Twitter Spaces. They're talking about how this isn't NATO. People are very loudly saying, "Hey, this isn't our conflict. It's none of our business." And they're saying, "Hey, if they take all of UKR and then end up going over into Poland, and if they start going into a NATO country, then yes, then that's when we jump in. But since they're not NATO, this is none of our business." But now, as people are just not, nonstop, not letting that go, now they're saying, "Oh yeah, well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen." This is, even Mr. Gates said that this country is super corrupt. There's a reason it wasn't in there in the first place. There's a reason why it was going to be a huge process, and that they have certain rules and certain expectations of a country to be in NATO. But I don't think it can be in there, well, the top 9 people are resigning because they might have been, possibly buying $1 million cars and houses and all that. So maybe they'll let them do that and then let them in. Maybe after a couple more Ferraris. I don't know. Speaking of Ferrari, thank you for the Ninja Guinea, Vicky K. Appreciate your support. Thank you for your support over on DLive, along with Big Bartman, Beer Juice, Priscilla R., and everybody else. And then, yeah, all the ships that went down to South Africa. We'll talk about that here right now. Real quick, before we move on, if you haven't already, go over and check out marfooglenews.com/energy. If you have been thinking about getting a generator, this is most definitely one of the coolest ones out there. These are solar generators, so they can actually be charged via solar panels. These come in packages where it has everything you need. They are plug and play. You put the solar panels out, you plug one cord into it, and all of a sudden it's taking in power. It has plugs for everything. Just to simplify, this is an absolutely amazing, amazing solar generator. This is the Kodig X2. This is using the new lithium ion phosphate technology, which brags way more charge cycles. In fact, this has 6,000 charge cycles tested, which means, to put it in perspective, if you use this every single day and filled it up, emptied it down, after 16 years, you would still have 80% of your battery capacity. As many know, lithium batteries in your remote control cars or in anything over time slowly degrade. This is bragging some of the longest times without degradation, and then even after that, you'll still have a good amount of capacity. Now, this is really amazing. It's all built in one. That's the Kodig X2. It's built like a tank. This is built with metal, not plastic. And then, of course, it has wood ingrain. It's pretty and all of that. But this is also a UPS, or an uninterrupted power supply. It's stealth. There's no gas involved, so you don't have to buy $5 gas and store it, again, which is also dangerous. And, again, nobody is going to hear this from 3 blocks away. This is awesome. Definitely for the person who just wants to get 1 or 2 generators, this can be dual linked. But the really, really amazing system is the Flex 1500. The reason why is this can actually be expanded up to 96 batteries. So if you can imagine, you can literally build up your basically a battery wall over time. You can keep getting batteries and adding and adding and adding. Again, you can actually stack up to 5 of them in one stack. They work like Legos. There is the footprint of the actual unit. There's no external wires unless you go over 5 batteries. Otherwise, it is a vertical stack in its own footprint that you don't need any chunky wires going from each battery, because the input and the output is on the top and the bottom. This has saved my butt so many times over the last year and a half. I cannot tell you. We've lost our power 5 or 6 times now. And each and every time, this has come in handy. Every time we have a bad storm, we make sure that all of these are charged. And then boom, when it does happen, if we lose it for 2 hours or 2 days, on the worst case, we've had power. So again, having power when everything is out is going to be monumental for survival. If you are at all a prepper, then you probably already have one. Again, but this has a lot of pros compared to gas. You should have both. But a gas generator, like you've seen in every documentary about EMP or anything like that, the second you run it, everybody's going to know you have it. So that's one of the biggest downfalls of a gas. Use the code Marfoogle, you'll get 10% off, and you'll be helping support our channel. Again, this is one thing that I absolutely know no one is going to regret ever, because this thing comes in clutch for everything. You can use it for camping, for work, plug a drill into it, take it in your truck. They're awesome. So go to marfooglenews.com/energy. Not only are you helping us, you're getting a discount, you're getting it for cheaper, and you are helping independent news. So thank you guys, and we appreciate it. The UKR conflict, the Russian warship with hypersonic cruise missile, could be sailing towards conflict zone. It says a Russian naval frigate armed with hypersonic missile systems will continue a long-distance deployment mission after completing a joint naval exercise with Chinese and South African navies. And it may even join other Russian forces in the Ukraine conflict. This is another thing. They haven't used these crazy ships that have super long-range stuff. They have not used these a lot at all. Dex, didn't they use one of these, and then we sank one of their flagship ones, right? Was that because that flagship ship was part of one of the first big attacks? Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was the one where they used our intelligence, they used our SATs and other stuff, but then we didn't shoot it down, but they did, the ship. But yes, ultimately they couldn't have done it without all the intel and information we were giving them. So that's pretty, pretty telling if this will go into the Black Sea there and start, or get anywhere near the location, because it would be, it would be monumental if this ship was taken out by UKR. I'm sure they would love to have a trophy like that. And it would be, super detrimental to the morale and the support for Putin if that happened. Now, flip side, if they get anywhere within 600 miles, the range on those zircons, I want to say, is about 600 miles. So it's not that far, but they are super, super, super fast, being that they're hypersonic. So they're not it's not the Sarmat, which is the other hypersonic that's long range. These are the short range, but they're still very fast.
And as of course, they have all of this gear that they don't use. I mean, they have tactical nukes. They have nuclear. They could just wipe UK off the map if they wanted to. But it's the matter of if they're going to do it or not. One comment that I think is really good here is Ray the Way says, "Did you hear Zelensky raging, talking about Americans need to go in and fight for UKR?" Says, what a windbag. Ray the Way, I would ask this. If somebody was invading the U.S., I wonder how many of these countries would volunteer to fight for us, right? Think about how many global countries have a negative opinion of us because of how involved we are everywhere else. Do you think that they would volunteer to fight for us and our people? Just a question. Maybe some people will be like, yeah, I think they would. And then Joseph Newhouse, hey, I made a fun video with a couple clips from your show yesterday. Maybe you could comment on it. Joseph, I will try to pop over and see if I can do so. And then Joseph, thanks for support. Carol, thank you. Imminent, thank you. Celtic Warrior, thank you for the support. Appreciate that. And for a super sticker as well. Again, you could have wrote a paragraph instead of a super sticker. Thank you so much, Celtic Warrior. I appreciate that. Kevin Crawford. Hey, Marf Dex Mods. Thank you for all your hard work. My wife, Carrie, listens to you every morning religiously. Tomorrow is her B-Day. And if you could give her a shout out, it would totally make her day when she watches tomorrow. Thank you again. Well, Kevin Crawford, Carrie, happy birthday. And absolutely, stick around. That's really awesome. Thank you so much for commenting, Kevin, and thank you guys for both watching. And then Ray the Way says UKR ain't winning if Zelensky is begging for American troops. Also, isn't Zelensky the same guy who was in a music video dancing nakedo? Yes. Well, that was when he was an actor. He was an actor, and he actually played on a TV show, a very popular TV show there, where he played a regular guy that went from being a regular guy to the president of the country. And he actually, in the show, he plays a really good, president. So, wonder how they found him. Jennifer Samsami, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Epic fail. Well, thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you for the support. And thank you, everybody, for popping in. So if you have information, by the way, make sure to send it to us, adam@marfooglenews.com or dex@marfooglenews.com. Also, we have a website where if you have videos of crazy things, send it to us at marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. In fact, if you go to our website, you'll see at the very top, you can actually see news, TV, friends, alerts, deals, contact, or play my video. Once you click on that, it will actually bring you to right here, which lets you actually submit your video. So if you want people to see a crazy video that you caught, whether it be, a UFO or somebody causing trouble in the neighborhood, let us know. Put it there. Play my video. marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. All right, check this out. It says NASA warns of 3 skyscraper-sized asteroids headed towards Earth this week. Thankfully, they'll all miss. I have noticed that there's been a bunch that they've just discovered 3 or 4 hours before they pass or a day after they pass. But it says that our solar system is home to millions of renegade space rocks, and this week there's going to be 3 particularly large ones that will blaze past Earth. But don't worry, the closest one will still miss our planet by a comfy 2.2 million miles away. And it says 10 times the distance of us to the moon. It says an asteroid named 2012 DK31 will sail past our planet distance of about 3 million miles. It says the asteroid measures an estimated 450 feet across, which I believe that would be a really bad one if it hit, or is about as wide as a 40-story skyscraper is tall. And its orbit around the sun crosses Earth's every few years. So I wonder if it's ever going to get closer. It says, although the space rock poses no imminent threat to Earth, NASA classifies it as a potentially hazardous asteroid. And it says, meaning the rock is large enough to and orbits close enough to Earth that it could cause serious damage if its trajectory changed and a collision occurred. Now think about this. If they're rolling around and if something like that hit another one out of chance, and it's like, I guess we're just waiting for one of these things to accidentally go off course or something like this. The thing is they have systems being made right now, straight out of the apocalypse movies. They have Hammer, hypervelocity asteroid and mitigation emergency vehicle. That's basically a nuke on a rocket. They have, of course, DART, which they just tested. It's like, I think that they are preparing for these things. But that's just my personal opinion. Let me know what you think. It says on Tuesday, February 28th, the second skyscraper-sized PHA, also measuring about 450 feet across, will cross our planet's orbit at 2.2 million miles away. And on Friday, March 3rd, an asteroid measuring roughly 250 feet will go at a distance of 3.3 million miles away. So normally and by the way, I cover a lot of them. They always say that it's the size of the pyramids or the size of a mega shark. They always give you some stupid description of how big it is. You'll see these every week, but you rarely see 3 in a week. That seems like a lot. Some believe that we are going through some sort of debris field. Others would look at these 3 and go, well, these have been around for a long time. Now, this last one was discovered in 2021. So this is a recent one. They're always discovering new ones. And then, of course, they haven't discovered ones, and then they've actually hit before they even noticed them. But that's usually the smaller ones. Makes you think, though, if they did discover one, would they tell us? I don't think so, and I think that's why they're developing DART and all of these other systems. And then FBI director says CV pandemic most likely originated in a G lab. This is even the FBI director, but again, now this is totally accepted. If you can't see where this is headed, they're pointing everybody to, of course, look in G's direction and to throw hate or shade their way. They are gearing the people against G. This is the separation I was talking about over the last couple weeks. Now, as far as this goes, this was a sensitive topic. People got taken off the internet for stating what is now considered true. This is wild. So it makes you think what priority. If they are saying it, then is this a distraction from something else? 3 years ago, this wouldn't be the distraction. This would be the thing that they're not telling us. It said the outnumbered panel discusses past media coverage mocking the CV leak theory, and the President B White House claimed that there is no consensus on the origins of it. It says FBI Director Christopher Wray said that the CV was likely caused by a leak from this in Wuhan. The FBI has for quite some time now assessed that the origins of this thing are most likely a potential lab in this city. I mean, geez Louise. Dex, what do you think about them? All of a sudden, they're just changing the script now. After all this time, and how many people are never going to be let back on? Did I lose you? Oh, I think I might have lost you. Uh-oh. Oh, well, we'll try to get Dex back on here. I apologize. Shoot. What the heck happened there? All right, we'll get Dex back on before we've got to go over some really crazy stuff here in a second. What do you guys think?
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. What I was talking about the lab and the new leak theory.
So my thought, the thing we were never allowed to talk about, and now the FBI director. The other thing is, could this be potentially something that goes back towards that painting a negative picture of Xi and China specifically, so that we have yet again another reason to get the population sort of upset about and geared up for conflict. We've talked about this week over week about, like, there's all these stories that just keep coming out about painting this negative picture, this perception, so that people would feel comfortable about the conflict. So potentially that's it too, aside from the fact that maybe there's other things going on with that information.
Yeah, and of course people are pretty pissed off about this information coming to light. Also a reminder, Xi in their country, all the Global Times, the People's Daily, the Shenwen, whatever it's called, the Shenwen letter or whatever, all of the main approved directly by the government has to go through Xi's office to put out an op-ed. They put out an op-ed that literally said that the U.S. was behind it, and that they were not only behind it, but they unleashed it on Xi's country. So their people were told by their most official sources that we were the ones who did it to them. Now our people are saying that they did it to us, but also forgetting to mention, like, who's paying for the stuff. Either way, their country is being pushed towards war. They've told their people, like, get ready for war, get your men ready, get your young men ready. They've told 16 and 17, 15-year-olds, hey, you're going to go into a conflict, so please ready your children. They've taken effeminate men off of TV. They've done all these actual cultural changes to get ready for war. Over here, it seems like we're taking some of that and doing that ourselves. Now we're pushing people to get ready for a conflict and to really have hate towards that country. It's pretty obvious where it's going. And then this last piece, the Boring Company CEO who slept at Twitter's headquarters with his newborn baby is rumored to be Twitter's next CEO. I don't know. There's something kind of... it's been fun on Twitter. As far as, like... It's definitely not been boring. Which, mind you, if you don't know, the Boring Company is Elon's other company that does the tunnels and probably does, deep underground military bases and stuff. But the Boring Company, he basically did a poll that said, should he be replaced as CEO? Should he step down? And he said, I will listen to the answer. Well, a lot of people said that that was a fake poll or there was bots involved because the numbers were crazy. Most people that I know don't really care, or they would rather that he stayed the CEO or whatever. Unless they're invested in Tesla, which probably want him back at Tesla. But they're saying that this guy might be next. One thing I've noticed about Twitter, though, the spaces, and I don't know if this is on purpose, but the spaces have been such a great resource for everything. There are so many crazy things being talked about on Twitter spaces. And it doesn't seem like there's censorship, but also I don't know. It's not been around for that long. But man, there is some of the craziest theories and information to back it up instantly. So if you're in a spaces with 100 other people and they're talking about something, somebody comes up with a theory, they can then tweet that theory or tweet the sources for it. So as you're listening to this like podcast, it's essentially what it sounds like, somebody can actually put the information or the video on screen. Simple enough, but it's really, really efficient for getting information out there. Earlier, there was a spaces that was kind of dedicated for pro UKR, but like 100 people showed up, and everybody that spoke was basically the opposite. So it never ends up being boring. Now they're saying that this Davis guy may be the next CEO. Dex, do you have any comments about this guy taking over? Do you think I think that Elon will still continue to, do his crazy tweeting, maybe even more if he's not the CEO.
He'll still be the head tweet, as he's called himself before, even if he's not in the actual CEO role. I think with that poll, though, I think it was A, there was a lot of bots. B, Tesla stock was down. So there's a lot of Tesla stock owners, as you said, that were upset. They thought he was spending way too much time at Twitter and not helping their stock price grow. By the way, we just reported he's now the richest man in the world again because his Tesla stock is up. It's doubled again. It went up from its low to now double where it was. So it's up 100%.
The Tesla truck.
And then, yeah. And so this CEO of the Boring Company has been instrumental in the recent round. And they just did another round of layoffs because there's a lot of expenses and things going on at Twitter. So he was, involved in the selection process, involved in finding, who to keep and who not. Those are the types of things that a CEO, would probably participate in. And so, given the fact that he's been playing a role there pretty high with Elon, and I'm not saying 420 high, he's probably looking like he's getting set up to be that position if he wants to take it. I mean, the flip side is the guy may not want to take it. He may want to stick with the Boring Company and be boring. This is probably a tough position to take.
Yeah, he'll be on the cover of newspapers and all. Like Boring doesn't get almost any attention, right? They at least it won't get like crazy attention, like your family followed around like, oh, this is the CEO of Twitter. Nobody's following around the CEO of Boring. It's like, oh, you dig holes? Oh man, this guy's really interesting. If you're the head of Twitter, on the other hand, you'll probably have your entire family tracked around the world. So yeah, that's pretty cute though. He brought his newborn baby. I'm kind of sad not to have any more kids. Newborns, little babies. I wish I could have like 20 kids, but that would just not be smart. Let's see here. Also, by the way, thank you. Ryan B says, great show as always. Samuel Turner says, donated to help the channel and Dex. Thank you. I don't like Adam. Just kidding. Thank you, Samuel, and I appreciate that. And however, which way you want to do it. Let's see here. Jennifer Sammy, thank you again. Ray the Way, Kevin Crawford, and again, Celtic. Appreciate that. Let's see here. We have over on D Live. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody that popped in. Let's see here. Oh, and Jessica Mathis. Thank you for the super thanks on the last show. Said thanks. Thank you for the massive support of our channel. I appreciate you sharing our stuff. And thank you for your support over on the next stage. I do appreciate that, Jessica Mathis. Appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you. And then let's see here. Bill Billingsley, thank you for subscribing. A bunch of new subscribers out of nowhere. I don't know what's happening with that. Maybe it's just from you guys sharing. Murphy's Law, Beer Juice, Laura Griffith, Renegade Petey, Jackie Jacks, thank you. And then Scooby Doo Right, thank you for gifting out the Marfia badge. Priscilla R. We have Murphy's Law 007. Vicky K, thank you again for the Ninja Genie. Chance, thank you for modding over there. Thank you, Lisa R. Hall. Thank you, Aaliyah. Thank you all the mods on YouTube. I appreciate all of you guys for popping in. And then Dex, let's go over the web only. There's still a lot more to hit real quick.
There certainly is. Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the description here on YouTube or Rumble and click on that show notes link. It'll take you right here to this page. There's a lot left to talk about. Even though we're running out of time, I'll give you the abbreviated version and you can go check out the rest. That's what this is all about. It's the overflow section. It's the rest of the story. So there's a proposed Oregon law that will give, they're saying at the headline level, homeless $1,000 a month. So this is that guaranteed income, but it actually goes much more than that. What they're proposing is anybody that's has families that's below the 60% of the median income. It's a pretty wide swath of people they're looking at, not just homeless in this proposal. So if this actually goes through, that would be one of the first that's that large. That's huge. A horrible incident in I think it was St. Louis. This video, you guys probably don't want to see it, but man, I can't believe somebody did this to a homeless person there. There's a new type of AI. It's called OI, and it stands for organoid intelligence. Okay, so scientists are looking to take brain cells and create AI, what we think of as AI today, but using brain cells. So organic AI. Man, this can't get any creepier, can it? That's going on. Of course, we have the litany of political stuff. So you got all the T-Man stuff going on, everybody who's running or says they're running or jockeying for positions. So all that is there, including MTG, who says she was attacked by someone in a restaurant. So lots of the political spectrum is covered there for sure. Hey, if you were on this flight, I don't remember, I think it was in the UK, they had the great view of the Aurora Borealis, and the pilot thought it was so good, he decided to make a 360-degree turn so that all the passengers could take a look at the Northern Lights. So kind of cool. Props to the pilot. Hope he doesn't get fired for doing that. Definitely one of those cool things that I guess they got to experience. Another article about the real quote unquote UFO problem, not being balloons. So that story's there if you want to go check it out. I think it goes through a lot of the stuff we've covered on this channel before. They're trying to propose a time zone for the moon. When you're on the moon, you don't know what time it is. You can reference your time back on Earth, but they're suggesting they need to create a lunar time zone. So that's there. Mexican president in the news yet again. This time he's not showing off woodland trolls, but he's basically saying they have more of a democracy in Mexico than we do here in the U.S. Some people would say them's fighting words, but he might actually have some truth there because things just seem to always get a little bit more restrictive around here. And one other story, there's not enough electricians. So for those of you looking for work, maybe that's a field to go look into if you want to broaden your horizons. They're basically saying all of the push for electric is basically going to show us that we don't have enough electricians in our market to handle that. So that and so much more, it's all there on the website. Go over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that description on YouTube and Rumble and click on the show notes link. It'll take you here. You get to the rest of the story.
Wages World says, what time zone is Asgardia? Yeah, that's actually, that is a great question. Aaliyah even says, that's a great question. Yeah. That's like a stumper. What time is it in space, right? It's just 2400 at all times. Thank you, Dex. Looks like we're about out of time. Thank you, guys. I love every one of you, and I appreciate you. Again, thank you so much for all of the support tonight. Again, join us tomorrow. We're going to have another great show. And make sure to subscribe to Marfoogle News. We're going to be switching over to Marfoogle Jams, so make sure to join us there for the shoutro. And Carrie, happy birthday. Definitely be making you a shoutro. So thank you, and thank you so much for all of the support. Love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
Politicians are dumb, 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 dumb. Politicians are dumb, 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 dumb.